Hello and welcome to another episode of the B2B Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Nils Vinje, and today I want to share a very powerful leadership lesson I learned long before I actually became a leader. So I went to college at the University of Colorado at Boulder. Go Buffs! And I majored in information systems. This was a half business, half technical major inside the business school. Now the time of this story was springtime, and it was the end of my senior year. The sun was shining, the temperatures were rising. I had a view of the Flatirons out of the window that I rented inside the house with my friends, and it was a glorious time. If you've ever spent any time in and around Boulder or Colorado during the spring, you know what a magical time of year it is. Now at this time, I was on the cusp of graduating, and I was really excited to graduate and to leave school and to enter the professional world. The best part was that I already had a job lined up. Several months before, I went through the interview process with a number of companies and was fortunate enough to receive an offer with a company I was really excited to work about, and I wasn't going to start working with them until September. So I was at the end of my senior year, I had the whole summer off, and then I would go to work full-time starting in September. At that point in time, life felt pretty good. But there was a presentation that I had to give as part of a group project in one of the most important classes I had that senior year, and that represented a significant challenge. Now this was such a challenge because I was extremely nervous. And I worked on my notes and my script over and over, but the reality was I wasn't confident in myself. I had given some presentations in some other classes as part of other projects, but this one was bigger and it was more important, and more of our grade was weighted on this presentation than previously. Now, the interesting thing was this presentation was actually pretty short, and I was part of a group, so my part was even shorter. But it didn't really matter much because the amount of stress that I felt was overwhelming at times in the days and weeks leading up to the event. So on the day of the presentation, I woke up and had this tremendous knot in my stomach. I felt stress in every part of my body, and I had to go to a couple of classes before the presentation, and it was really difficult to pay attention in those classes. I entered the classroom, and it was one of those stadium seating type of classrooms that held about 50 to 75 people or so that you see very commonly on college campuses. The class started and the professor introduced what was going to happen today, and then he introduced the first group, and they presented. And then he introduced the second group, and they presented, and we were going to be the third group. Now during the first two presentations, I watched everything that those groups did very intently. I wanted to see what they did and how they showed up. And I noticed that they were nervous and they came off as not confident as a result. And I knew that I was nervous, but I did not want to come off as not confident to the audience, of which I just had a front row seat to see exactly what I would look like if I went up there nervous. So as I sat in my seat, I came up with an idea for how to do my part of the presentation. And instead of reading from my script, as I had been practicing for well over a week, I decided I would just engage the audience and have a conversation with them. And as I refined my idea in my head, I began to get excited. When it was our turn, I couldn't really pay attention to much of what my peers were doing because I was thinking about my part. I was still refining what I was going to do and what I was going to say and how it was going to go. So when it was my turn, everybody was standing in a line next to each other. I decided to step away from that line and step forward, closer to the audience. And there was a table right in the center, and I decided to lean on that table, one leg up on the edge of the table and the other leg on the ground. And what I did was just sit there casually, and I had a conversation with the audience. I opened up with a question to engage them. Then I shared what I thought was the most important elements from my presentation, but in a conversational way. Now, the crazy thing that happened was that I felt completely calm in that moment. Nothing bothered me. I was not nervous. I was not worried. I only wanted to talk to the audience and have a conversation, and that's exactly what I did. So after the presentation, One of my good friends in the group said, quote, "That was awesome. Where the heck did that come from?" Now, he had only known the not so confident presenter version of Nils that he had seen in our rehearsals. And he had known me previously for years personally as well. He was shocked by what I did. Now, in that presentation, he saw a completely different side of me, and I frankly saw a completely different side of me too. And the leadership lesson I learned that day is the power of having a conversation with an audience. If you're giving any kind of a presentation, always remember to make it a conversation, just like I'm doing with you right now. If you do this, your level of success will increase dramatically. Now, inside the B2B Leaders Academy, we have training on how to create an unstoppable presentation, which is a step-by-step guide on how to have a conversation with any audience. To complement the training, we also have a community of worldwide leaders who come together every week for leadership mastermind sessions. Imagine being able to ask peer leaders from around the world for feedback on your presentation ideas. Plus, you'll also get access to me as your very own leadership coach in our private coaching area. You can share your presentation and or approach with me, and I'll give you direct feedback. Getting access to leadership training content, a leadership community, and leadership coaching is just a click away. So visit b2bleadersacademy.com/join, and I look forward to helping you create and deliver an unstoppable presentation where you just have a conversation with your audience.